There are moments in a conflict when the mask slips entirely, when the excuses, the denials, the pretense of military necessity collapse, and what is revealed is a system of cruelty without restraint. Kalen Robertson said it long ago, when too many Western commentators were still sleepwalking their way through Kremlin talking points. Russia was already using drones to hunt civilians. It was not an accident, it was a method, and that method has now matured into something decrepitatious in the purest moral sense, a strategy of hunting non-competence in broad daylight. And along the right bank of the Dnipro, a long tortured stretch of Kherson, Mykolaiv and Dnipropetrovsk, civilian life is evaporating even while the front line hardly moves. The cause is not artillery, it's not accidental shelling, it's the industrial use of cheap, precise FPV drones guided by operators who see everything down to the last gesture. These drones are flown into men walking their dogs, into women carrying water, into volunteers, firefighters, police officers, farmers on tractors, and children stepping out for a rare moment of sunlight. What should have been a precision technology that reduced harm has been transformed into a spectacle of calculated brutality. Truth Hounds, one of the most respected human rights organizations in the region, has laid out the numbers with forensic clarity. In Kherson alone, Russian forces launched between 600 and 700 drone attacks every week in early 2025. In just 2 months, at least 313 civilians were hit. Emergency vehicles have been struck as they attempted to reach the wounded. Homes, schools, kindergartens, cars, even the streets where people take their last hurried steps before the buzz closes in. The horror of this is that these drones have little cameras on, so the Russian operators know exactly what and who they are hitting. In Nikopol, Russian drone use increased from 0 in mid-2023 to over 360 strikes a month by June 2025. That's not improvisation, it's policy. And that brings us to the red zone fantasy peddled on Russian telegram channels. The Kremlin's loyalists describe frontline settlements as target fields where any movement at all, any silhouette, any breath, any flicker of life is framed as military activity. It is the laundering of murder through language. A civilian becomes military the moment the operator decides to pull the trigger. The UN's International Commission of Inquiry agrees. Its October 2025 report is devastating. It concludes without qualification that Russia has committed crimes against humanity, murder and forcible transfer of population, using drones as tools of terror, targeting civilians in a 300-kilometre stretch of the right bank, hundreds of verified videos, hundreds of testimonies, ambulances hit twice, first responders targeted precisely because they are first responders. This is not the fog of war. This is deliberate activity. This is deliberate choice. This is done with a little camera on the front of the drone. They can see exactly who they are targeting. Kherson residents call it a human safari. Angelina Jolie, visiting underground clinics and bombed courtyards, described the constant humming overhead as a psychological weight that never lifts. Families pause mid-sentence, mid-conversation, waiting for the buzz to pass. Children attending school in basements. Roads are draped with improvised nets like scenes from a post-apocalyptic stage set. One local leader, Sergei Ivashchenko of Antonivka, put it with stark clarity: every time you step outside, it's a plan. He survived 3 drone attacks. He runs, he calculates, he listens. The buzzing is the only early warning system left after Russia destroyed the mobile network. This is the life compressed to margins of instinct. The story of the Kherson farmer, Alexander Godichenko, is the tragedy that follows from such a system. He survived the occupation. He cleared his own fields of more mines. He rebuilt his sheds. He replanted his sunflowers in soil scorched by fire. The land mattered to him. The animals mattered. The community mattered. He was known and respected across the region. You should check out the extraordinary video by Kalen Robertson. And then the FPV drone struck his car. The injuries were catastrophic. He fought for 40 miles. He hit the seat. He tried to speak. Blood filled his lungs. His daughter listened later to the call. Alichka, Dad has been killed. A sentence no child should ever hear. A sentence that indicts an entire state. What crime did he commit? He was farming. He was going about his day, and Russia decided that this was a target, not because he was a soldier, but because his terror is now the point. Russia is not merely attacking civilians, it is trying to empty the land. The UN report notes that widely circulated messages tell Ukrainians, "Leave before the leaves fall, you who are destined to die." These threats, paired with the attacks, amount to forcible transfer of population. It is demographic cleansing by drone. And yet the people remain, they rebuild, they replant, they lay anti-drone nets across the streets. They buy drone detectors. They carry shotguns because there's no other choice. They work fields turned into kill zones. They bury their dead. They go back to their barns, to the stables, to the sheds that barely stand. And through all this, the Russian propaganda ecosystem, the same machine Caelan Robertson exposed, continues to push cheerful videos of bloggers paid by companies like Limitless, pretending Russia is a misunderstood paradise, travel bloggers, music bloggers, art bloggers, the glossy face of a state that in reality is hunting civilians with $10 explosive dropped from toys. The contrast is grotesque. Ukraine now lives with the fallout of a new category of cruelty. Cheap drones have made the poor man's precision weapon, but in Russia's hands they are not instruments of accuracy but instruments of humiliation, and that is why experts now call for a global drone convention. The old landmine debates will feel almost quaint in comparison to what lies ahead, because once a state normalizes the hunting of civilians using live video feeds on social media, something fundamental has broken. And yet, the Ukrainian spirit is not broken. It is dented, bruised, grieving, but not broken. It is unbroken. Alexander Hodienko's family said it plainly. You can take one Cossack, but you cannot take the Sich. They will sow again. They will harvest again. They will rebuild the roofs that have been blown away. They will celebrate victory in the same courtyards where they now sweep the shrapnel aside. Russia wanted silence. It wanted flight. It wanted submission. Instead, it has created wilderness and witnesses. It's created the very people who are going to stand up in that emptiness and say, this is what these blackguards, this is what these aggressors have done. And they have watched it on video as they did it, thousands of them, and they can speak with the clarity that the world can no longer ignore. They have the testimony. They have the experience. This is a deliberate policy of cruelty. It's war on civilians, dressed up as military necessity, and history will treat it as such, with the same moral judgment reserved for those moments when nations choose terror over honour. And what remains certain is this: the drones may buzz overhead, but the Ukrainian will to endure hums louder, and it will outlast the machines. Be in no doubt about that.